Alright guys, Touch Grubby back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Monday so far. Hope your day is going well. If it's not going so well, hopefully the rest of the day continues to get better. Today I wanted to talk about the champs shenanigans that's going on right now. Yesterday, the CDL came out with confirmation on what the plan is for the Challengers, Champs, Playoffs, World Championship, whatever you want to call it, for the Amateur Challenger side. And really it gives some indications on what we could expect to happen when it goes to the Pro announcement, which I assume is coming in coming days here. Now look, Skrapz then comes out later in the day when there were some discussions with the amateur community, very heavily implying that indeed the World Championship for the Pro event is also going to be done online, and I think we really need to have some discussion on exactly why, how realistic that option is. Like, if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, to go through the Challengers results from this, the Challengers Cup this past weekend, so the final Challengers Cup of the season. Renegades take it down in the Australian region, as you might expect. In Europe, once again, Team War take the victory. Trainhard in the second here, Team Singularity in fourth, and obviously, this is a pretty big point, right, given that the Challengers Champs is going to be online, as we will look at in a second here. Dave comes out and just looks at all the results here, because I believe, so bids on Singularity came out the other day, said it's talking about 6 months of winning, and then Dave brings up all the scoreboards to say that, well, actually, that's not the case. We've won back-to-back events, matching our back-to-back record this year. This is what it looks like for Team War. Pretty remarkable, the reign of dominance they have had in Europe over the last several weeks. All these number ones online, obviously putting them in a pretty good spot going into the last three Challengers events of the season at the last three home series, but then we get the last chance qualifier, which they probably won't need to compete in, and then of course the World Championships after that. This is what it looked like in the North American region last night. So 6th Gear take the victory, Atlanta FaZe Academy in 2nd place, Parasite's team down here in 3rd place, but of course some names you guys will know in this one, and that's a pretty big deal when we go to look at what exactly it looks like for the Challengers scene to finish out this season. So look, $500,000 overall prize pool, online competition in North America, Europe and APAC regions. Always a bit of a contentious point, right? Latin America, Africa, not exactly in, Japanese region, for example, not getting their fair share, you could say, but at the same time, it's very difficult to organize this stuff on a really large scale, and I suppose if there are some regions to be sacrificed, NA, Europe, and APAC have always been the regions that have been supported over the last several years, so it does kind of make sense, even though I'm sure it's frustrating for a lot of people who do love Call of Duty. Last chance qualifier and finals event. So finals, playoffs, champs, that's what they were calling it. Last year they called it the amateur finals. We'll look at exactly what the timeline was for that event in a second here, and what it could mean for champs this year as well. So this is what they come out with. This is the schedule right now. So you've got the APAC New York Subliners Open, New York. So basically this is what we've got left in the season. The New York event, the London event a week after that, well, another London event, another Toronto event a week after that. So back to back events to finish out the season. This last weekend was the final Challengers Cup. They've got Challengers events alongside the pro stuff for the final 3 events. Then from there, it starts switching up. So they call this the post-season format. Slightly confusing, I think, because, it's really post all the home series events, but it's still within the Modern Warfare season. But yeah, we'll include a last chance qualifiers event and a finals event, 3 regions, as we said, $500,000 on the line for the amateur side. This is what the LCQ looks like. So 1 week after the final event in Toronto, Saturday, August 1st and Sunday, August 2nd, open sign up. So the top 24 teams in North America and Europe go straight to the finals event. 8 teams qualify through the last chance qualifiers. So any team can potentially qualify for the World Championship Grand Finals, or the finals event for the amateur stuff, which is pretty cool to see. Maybe some of you guys watching this video will make it happen. In the APAC region as well is also open for a similar thing. Then we go on to the finals then, dates to be determined, to be announced soon. So we're not exactly sure what's going on here or when this will happen, but $250,000 in North America, $200,000 in Europe. So I imagine the winning team, at least in the European region, will be netting like 80 grand, 16 grand each. Like, that's pretty good payday, especially given how well Team War and the likes have done this season off these challenger side as well. So it can be pretty profitable, right, playing in the amateur stuff rather than being a professional substitute, for example. And then, especially if you're getting a salary from some of these amateur teams as well. Top 16 APAC teams will play in a double elimination bracket. So all double elim. Teams that also qualify for finals based on rosters. So some kind of roster lock stuff going on as well. But really what we wanted to look at here is comparing this Challengers stuff to what exactly we saw last year. So last year it was a little bit of a different story, right? We had the Pro League playoffs running alongside the amateur finals. The Pro League playoffs was the 10 best teams from the CWL. Then the amateur finals, 125 teams came down to the championship, which I think was the boys, which was like a Quicker and Shawnee's team and those guys at the time. So those are the players that won that. And then, of course, we had the World Championships after that, where all the amateur finals teams, the top 16, got to go to the World Championship alongside the main teams from the Pro League. However, that's not how it's going to work this year. Effectively, the season cuts off before the World Championships. I always did think it was kind of strange that we had the Pro League playoffs last season and then also the World Championship, which was just the best pro teams plus the, you know, all the other best teams in the game as well. So it seems kind of inevitable, right, that United, after winning the Pro League playoffs, are also going to win the World Championship. It wasn't exactly easy for them, right? But it's pretty common that a team that wins Stage 2 playoffs or Pro League playoffs last season is going to do great at the World Championship and doesn't really make too much difference for all the other players getting to come along to the event. So I always thought that format for the last couple of years was kind of strange, having playoffs and then champs right after, even though they're basically the same event with all the best teams there, but just champs has additional teams that, you know, they make some moves, like Kleenex on Singularity, for example, at the World Champs last year, but they're never going to win the thing, right? So basically, this season they're cutting it off here, which begs the question, will the amateur finals go alongside the Pro League playoffs? Now, look, we know that the amateur finals is going to be online. As we just looked at, it's confirmed that these are going to be online events. Makes sense, right? I mean, especially in the European and APAC regions, there's no way you can do that right now. You can't bring the players to a North American event and do anything like that. You could argue that it might be possible to bring the teams to a venue for the North American stuff, but the problem really is for Activision right now is that it's very difficult to predict what the future holds, especially, you know, they want to do this. The last chance qualifier is August 1st and Sunday 2nd of August, so I imagine they want to hold the playoffs a couple of weeks after that max, right? So mid-August, maybe late August, don't want to go any further than that. And the same thing for champs, right? They don't really want to go into September if they don't have to, I would imagine. So in that case, it's very, very difficult to predict if you're Activision Blizzard and you're running the CDL, what the landscape is going to look like in a couple of months' time for whether you're going to be able to travel, whether it seems morally and socially responsible to get your players on a plane and traveling them to events and getting all the staff out there that's required. Things seem to be, you know, the pandemic isn't exactly fully under control in a lot of countries right now, especially the USA. Talk about a number of reasons for that, but, you know, not in the scope of this channel, but it's far from easy to make decisions right now about a potential event going on in a LAN environment. So definitely understandable that they're doing the Challenger stuff online. Never really doubted that was going to be the case. Of course, last year it was on LAN, which is much better, and maybe they're doing this to try and give themselves leeway to make it work for the Pro League environment. However, it doesn't seem incredibly likely, as we'll look at right here. So this, as we said, was what it looked like last year. The amateur finals will run alongside the Pro League playoffs. Does that mean that when this announcement is made or where the finals is going to be, is it going to be run alongside the Pro League event? I hope it doesn't, right? I hope they give them two separate weekends to have the Challengers finals being one pretty big event, and then the weekend following is the Pro League finals. I think that would do better than kind of putting the Challengers as like a complete tier 2. Obviously it's a tier 2, but don't need them to be overshadowed so much as they tend to be right at these normal home series, but that's perfectly understandable. So of course there's some discussion going around from Defrag. This isn't good for the mental health, and you're telling me I have to play it online for $200,000. So look, I'm intrigued, right, because there's so much money on the line to be played for online, and, well, of course, a lot of the players are talking about how some players are blessed online, they have great internet, all this kind of stuff, which obviously is an issue, right, but in the amateur scene, you know, there's not really too much you can do about it right now. So then Skrapz comes out with the following: bro, picture hours, 4.2 million or something. I think it's actually 4.6 million, but something in this ballpark online. Now, this tweet hasn't been deleted or anything, and MattG replies, 2020 in a nutshell. Never felt this way at playing a CoD game before. This is supposed to be fun, but the only fun I have is chatting bollocks on Twitter. So, look, like, Skrapz is basically saying it's going to be online for us as well. And we did see a few days ago, this tweet exchange came out between Clayster and Simp. You know, effectively a very similar reply here that Clayster gives with this, like, haha thing to what Skrapz does. And Simp saying this, but then they came out on the Reddit, and Clayster says, I'll admit this was bait. I don't know anything about champs or how it's functioning, but I do just kind of find it kind of strange that Skrapz is just going to come out and say, well, look at yours, right? You're playing for 200k, ours is for 4.2 million, and it's online. He doesn't seem to say, like, oh, I'm not sure whether it's online. He just says straight up, it's online. So look, whether I believe this or not, I'm not exactly 100% sure right now, but at the same time, I came into a few days ago and I was probably 65-70% confident that they would find a way to do this on LAN. Then again, the way the pandemic seems to be going worldwide right now, I'm not really sure that the CoD League can make great contingency plans for doing it in a LAN environment, because it doesn't really seem like things are going to particularly ease down and morally Can they make that work? Is it going to be a bad PR look if you're making players fly out to events? Of course, that's the ideal scenario, but maybe it's not something they really want to have to deal with, and especially because the online league has got better and better, and well, people are more accustomed to it, and things seem to be working out better in the online scene most recently, and well, it seems like the production quality has stepped up to some degree. They may be in some position to say, look, okay, whatever, we're just going to do it online. That's not the ideal situation for really any of us, and we can talk about potential implications with that in future days, but Skrapz does not fill me with confidence, right, that we're going to have this online like we would have liked to have seen. And well, especially with some other tweets coming out from previous players. Celium said a while ago as well that he feels like it will just be done online as it has been. That has big implications, right, and there's a lot of money on the line here, and I really would hate to see it online, but can Activision really figure out another way to do it without significantly delaying the event? And who really knows what the future holds in terms of delaying the event particularly long. So just to finish off the video, saw this on Reddit a couple of days ago talking about the third game mode for the new Call of Duty. People are talking about CTF or control. Uplink coming back could be an option. Wonder what you guys think on this as well. In my opinion, for a boots on the ground COD, yeah, you could probably tweak uplink like they did with a gridiron, I think back in World War II, where the goal was on the ground. Maybe, you know, there's probably other options you could explore with that, but for me, I really liked control actually in the recent game in Black Ops 4. I think Treg do a pretty good job coming up with new modes, and the maps have to be very, very good, I think, for CTF to be a preferred mode in the CDL. So look, we'll just have to see what happens in the next Call of Duty game, but if control does come back, I would kind of like to see it. I think it was a good mix of fast-paced action, but it was an entertaining mode to watch as well, much more than domination in my opinion, and I think it was good for casuals because it's pretty clear, like you have the kill limit, you also have the areas to control. Good for people who are new to the game to get in and enjoy things. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like if you did, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff down in the comment section below, because we don't want this to be online, but it looks every single day like that's more and more likely. Then again, you could say that the longer we wait to hear about this stuff, the better news it is, because at least Activision isn't coming out straight away and saying, look, it's going to be online. The longer we wait, the more it seems like they're discussing behind the scenes whether this is possible and waiting for some sort of go-ahead maybe from local authorities to think about where exactly they could go ahead and do something like this, but it's not exactly going to be easy. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always. I'll see you next time.